Hello, welcome to Partly Crafting. My name is Thomas and I'm really glad to meet you. Today we're making a doll that I've been wanting to make for like ages, and I have been making for ages. Pink Pantheress. When I first designed this doll months ago, Fancy That had just come out and I was just so inspired by the aesthetics. I thought it was really unique, the use of like tartan, very like Vivienne Westwood, 2000s inspired. Really cool, obsessed with it. So I wanted to make a doll of her as if she was a student at Monster High, the daughter of Pink Panther. So I have a lot of very particular opinions on doll bases when it comes to customizing. So for this one, I wanted to make sure I got it right. So if you've watched my channel before, you know that I love Generation 3 Monster High. It's my favorite iteration of Monster High personally. And their bodies are so much nicer to customize because body types are more natural. I never used to notice how crazy Generation 1 Monster High dolls looked until we started getting actual, like, more realistic body types in G3, and I was like, whoa, G1 looks crazy. So for this doll, I have chosen a body of Generation 3 Clawdeen. And for the head, one thing I don't like about G3 is that I think the faces are a bit childish, which works because the characters are children. They are like teenagers. But personally, I prefer the more kind of like type of look that Generation 1 Monster High dolls have. So I went for Rochelle Goyle. As far as we're talking for body mods, there was really not much I had to do. I took off Rochelle's ears and then replaced them with more panther looking ears made out of wire and a shell of hot glue. This was the technique I used on Espeon and most of my other Evolution dolls, and it works really well for me. It's a lot lighter than epoxy sculpt, and as well as that, my doll shelf is pretty precarious, so if they fall down they don't break, they just squish and I can bend them back. As well as that, I added a tail to her back by just carving a hole in her back, the same as I do for my Evolutions, but I chose to just use a Generation 1 Katrine Demue tail, and that worked fine for what I needed it for. Now I could move on to colouring the doll. I custom mixed this like sickly, like radioactive hot pink colour that we know and love from the Pink Panther, and I think it looks great, don't you? Now the paint is done, we're ready for the face up and the body blushing, and she's going to look great, but you've got to make sure you spray her with 2 coats of Mr. Super Clear UV Cut Flat outside with a mask on. Have to wear a mask. It's dangerous stuff. It's dangerous. So do a help wear a mask and spray her with 2 coats, and then she will be ready for customizing. I don't know where my hands went in that clip, but that's fine. Now we're going to move on to body blushing, which I think is really important step in doll customizing. I used to skip it. I recommend you do it, so this is how. Okay, you're going to get some chalk pastels and scratch it up into a dust. If you've got the posh ones, then it'll just come off the chalk with a brush, but I have to scratch mine up and then use a brush. And then literally just get a paintbrush or a makeup brush, any brush, just fluffy, usually works best. And then you just go in all the spaces where there would be blushing. So you want to think like joints, maybe like the neck, and where any like shading of muscles would be usually. So Espeon and Chimaris, my water doll, both have really good body blushing. So if this wasn't in-depth enough for you, I would definitely recommend checking out those YouTube videos. I will have them linked in the description so you can check them out, and also I will also link Chameleon Studios. She is a brilliant artist and her body blushing is just next level. I mean, I don't know how she does it. So that's where we're all aiming for, you and me. We're gonna get there one day. We will be like Chameleon Studios. Okay, so with this face up, I wanted to focus on really cartoonifying Pink Pantheress's face, because I don't like the semi-real aesthetic. I really tried. I tried so hard, you guys, on Chimaris, my last doll, and he doesn't look bad, but he doesn't look good, so I definitely want to stick in that kind of cartoony bubble aesthetic. So I'm gonna take some key features of Pink Pantheress, which to me, she's got very like big eyes and eyelashes and very full lips, so I want to make sure that that comes through in my doll really well, and just make sure that those are kind of the key features that you can point out, so that when you see it with the tartan and the hair, you just know exactly who it is. As always, I've just started by putting down the base colours, so I've done some just brown acrylic paint just to get down those eyebrows, and then I filled in her scleras with white acrylic paint. The new acrylic paint I'm using is so opaque, it's great. And then I can start working in the actual details like her irises and her eyelashes and the hairs in her eyebrows, and just really refining everything to look more professional and finished. Lately, I've been trying a lot harder to add catch lights in my doll's eyes. I used to not do it, and I used to gloss their eyes, which obviously took out the need for catch lights, but I found that really difficult to photograph, so I stopped glossing their eyes, but then never added catch lights. So I'm doing that now, and I really like the way it looks. It makes it look a lot more cartoony and cute, so I'm really happy with the effect. Here's the finished face up. I really think she's one of my best, and she looks quite close to Sylveon, which is a style that I've been really enjoying working with recently, so I'll definitely be bringing that forwards. Now it is time to give her some hair. I'm really excited because this tends to be the bit where the doll kind of comes together and you can tell that she looks just right. So for this doll, I'm going to be using nylon doll hair in the length Barbie long in the colour Chocolate Pudding from dollyhair.com. This is like the perfect kind of gingery brown that Pink Pantheress always has for her hair, and it looks brilliant next to the hot pink skin tone. So very similarly to yarn hair wefts, with nylon hair wefts, you just start from the nape of the neck and work your way up and around until you get to where you want the parting to be. Because she had ears, that did cause a little bit more problems, so I just did the same way you do a parting, where you glue the weft in the wrong direction and then you kind of heat style it back down to the right direction, and it creates a really nice kind of soft edge instead of having just a straight glue weft edge, which looks a bit messy. One thing I did properly struggle with though was getting the parting wefts properly folded over so they looked crisp and clean. So the way I did this actually was off of the head. I used the original wefts and I folded them over a piece of paper, and then I used a hair straightener and just kind of like hair straightened them to be that crisp edge around the paper. Then you take the paper out and it's a proper like flat angle on itself, and then you can just glue the bottom of the weft down and it works much cleaner than trying to do it on the actual head, in my opinion. So here I'm just showing you how I dealt with that springy parting. It was especially difficult because she had the ears, and so there was quite a thin space for me to get the parting in. But what I did was I put all the wefts in place, brushed it down and elastic banded it around her neck to keep it flat. And then I heated up a baby knife with some hair straighteners, and I just pressed it down onto the parting, trying my best not to get it too hot where I like fry the fibers, because that can make them all frizzy and you can't come back from that as far as I'm aware. So it's just about being careful and taking your time, and eventually it will work. Some of the pieces at the very back were still a little bit springy, so what I did was I wrapped her head flat, like I made all the hair flat and then wrapped it in some fabric and just pinned that down and left it there for like a good few days, and that pinned the hair down much better than I thought it would, so definitely the time investment is worth it. Now it was time for the final part of doing her hair, which was putting in the fringe or bangs, however you like to call it. I decided to give her a more like curtain bangs style, which she was definitely leaning more towards when I was making this doll back in like late summer, but now she's kind of moved more towards just a classic like straight across fringe. But I do like the way I did it, so I just made a fringe as usual with parting wefts, and I just like scraped them around towards the side of her head and put it in like a half up, half down, and then I could spray that with Got2b Glued to keep it in solid in place, and then I just trimmed them, and I think they look really nice, especially for like my first proper try at a fringe with nylon doll hair, because it's so springy. I'm gonna have to get a little bit more help with that because I couldn't boil wash it because she was acrylic paint. All of her body would melt off, so I will figure that out more, but I'm really happy with how they turned out, and it does look like early Fancy That era Pink Pantheress. Okay, so for shoes I was like struggling a little bit because Pink Pantheress always either wears ballet flats or kitten heels, and I didn't want to do kitten heels for two reasons. One, I'm not really a fan of kitten heels, sorry guys, and also the point of the foot was too high to have it really be a kitten heel. So I was trying to think like what could I do with a ballet flat to make it a heel, because I didn't want to give her flat feet. And so I thought just like a simple glossy black wedge would look really nice and give the same effect as a ballet flat. So I took the sandals from the first wave of Generation 3 Laguna Blue, and I cut off the sandally bit and then carved down the heel to be the correct width and size. After all the carving, this is the base shoe that I have, and I also cut trenches along the side and the bottom of the shoe, so I would have somewhere to put wire to build the armature for the heel and toe box. With this epic transition, I will show you how I made the shoe into a shoe with clay. It looks brilliant. I really like it actually, genuinely, and I think now we should move on to clothes. Now it is time for clothes. One of my favourite pieces of this custom doll is her dress. I'm using a petite slimline level up sewing pattern from raddollclothes.com. Raddollclothes.com is a brilliant place to get your sewing patterns. It's not sponsored, but I get all of my sewing patterns from there, so I can't recommend them more. This sewing pattern did give instructions on how to upsize the pattern for Generation 3 Monster High dolls, but Monster High dolls now have very varied body types from doll to doll, so it's not particularly right for all of them, so I did make some edits to the waist and the hip section to make it more fitted, as well as making space for the tail at the back. As always, I just start at the shoulder seams. After hemming all of my pieces with glue, I start at the shoulder seams, and then you can go from the sides over to the sleeves, and then that was it for the top half, and I just did that in a plain black lightweight cotton so that it would be nice and movable for the doll, and nice and sleek. From the beginning of this project, I knew I needed tartan somewhere. Most of the aesthetic of her album, Fancy That, is tartan. It's all red and blue and tartan, and it's brilliant. I love it so much. And I knew I had to do something with it, but I was trying to figure out where I would get tartan from on such a small scale, and it just doesn't exist, is what I found. If you find it, brilliant, buy it, buy meters of it, but I couldn't find anything. So I decided to be an overachiever and make it. So I took a regular photo of just one block of tartan from the internet, and I just formatted it over and over again in rows to make a repeat pattern that is just a big roll of tartan, basically. And then I sent that off to my textiles technician at college. Shout out, she is a legend. And she was able to print it off for me on sublimation paper. What's that, I hear you ask? Sublimation paper is special paper and special ink that prints onto the paper, and then with heat you can transfer this onto fabric. So that's exactly what I did. I put it in the heat press and I got this out of it. Now I know it looks a bit funky, but that's because I took all the good bits off, and the middle is a bit pale because I don't think I let the heat press heat up enough, but the edges were like vibrant, like bright, so that is what I used for the actual skirt, because I only needed like a small rectangle, and I got 3 tries out of this paper. So in theory you can make as much as you want and print it off as much as you want. It just costs like £1.50 to print the piece of paper, which is a bit crackers. But that was what I did, and I'm so happy with it. Each block of tartan is 2 centimeters wide, which is ridiculously small, and it's just perfect scale on the doll. I did so many measurements to figure it out. Just maths, man, so much maths. But it looks great, and now we can sew that into the pleated tennis skirt that goes on the bottom of the black dress. And here it is. Here's the finished pleated skirt that I'm about to sew onto the bottom of the top of the dress, and I'm so happy with this came out. If you want to get specific, each pleat is 1.8 centimeters wide, that's 18 millimeters, which was kind of the perfect width because tartan is 2 centimeters, so there was a nice kind of like offset where it didn't look too uniform and even each time, but you still got to see the pattern properly, and it looks brilliant, and I'm really proud of how it turned out. So with that, the dress is finished, and can I just say I'm happy to be here. It looks great, and I really hope you like it too. With that, we have finished all the components of the doll. I am so happy with how she's come together, and I think it's just time to put her together and get into the final reveal. I hope you guys like her. thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and this doll. I mean, it's one of my favorites and I really loved making this video. Everything took a lot longer than usual, but I really think it was worth it. And I really liked that I was able to recreate the illegal video, which is like my favorite video ever. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. Let me know which pop star you would like to see me make next, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!